And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Robin Jelinek, who channels a group of spirits collectively known as Athena in Truth, and another spirit outside that group called Shiva. Robin, thank you for joining me today, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Pleasure to be here.
So, Robin, can we start with your backstory and how you became interested in metaphysics and spirituality?
Sure. I would say probably in my early 20s, I was always interested in learning more about what life was all about, why we're here. Do we remember ourselves when we were gone? These were questions that were always going on in my mind. I remember in my early 20s, and I would try to talk to my husband about it at the time. He was real busy in our business, and not that he didn't agree with it or wasn't interested, but it just wasn't the right timing for him. So I just kind of went on to read and study as much as I could about everything. I liked to read Sylvia Browne. I read A Course in Miracles, literally hundreds of books on every spiritual topic, and it really got to be a passion of mine. It resonated with me. And I would say about 20 years of that went on, and my kids were getting ready to leave for college, and I was in my mid-40s and really feeling a little bit displaced because I loved being a mother and really missed my family moving on to college, and was kind of trying to adjust to all of those changes. And this is when I really delved more into practices, and I was doing a lot of meditation and some breath work from time to time, on my own time, I guess. And what happened was I had what was called the Kundalini rising. It was kind of a monumental moment in my life where it pretty much confirmed everything that I had been reading about. I heard all of the chakras. I felt them when they were penetrated. I had a lot of spiritual experiences. And I was just a normal person. That's the way I would categorize myself. I wouldn't say that I'm metaphysical or that I'm really out there in any fashion or form. So it was very surprising to me that this happened and that it was confirmed in this way to me. And that kind of sent me on a whole nother journey. What was that? What did that mean? And I had several other experiences similar to the first Kundalini rising in my experience. And it really brought on like a dark night of the soul. I definitely went through 2 or 3 years where life seemed kind of flat. I didn't enjoy the same things. I just didn't really enjoy going out for dinner or buying anything, or certain people and conversations. I was just finding them not to be stimulating. And so friendships were changing a little bit. And just everything in my life was kind of not the same. I'd put it that way. It just didn't have the same feeling that it had before. And I think partly that occurred. I think it can be common for people that have a Kundalini rising, but I think it's really common for people who have a partial rising. And I think what I had was a partial rising. I think it happened and I wasn't really prepared for it. I don't know if you're supposed to be eating all the right things, doing all the right things in order to have the full rising all at once. But I think looking back on it, maybe that happened to me so that I could help other people in their journeys, because I have had the full experience of it. I had the partial rising. I had it veer off to one side. I had it come down through the top of the head a couple of years later. And I kind of went through all of these transitional things that you go through and really understand how that energy works and what it is. And so I do assist people a lot with that in the sessions that I do. They're very interested in it. And not to get off on another tangent or anything, but it really is a life force energy consciousness that sits at the base of the spine of every human. Everybody has it. It's not something unique to me or anyone else. And once that consciousness gets let out of the bottle, you can't put it back. So that's one of the things that I think you need to understand. And I think at some point, every person will probably have that experience, but when it happens is going to be independent of you and the evolution of your own soul. And actually what happens is once that energy is released, it actually opens up all of your energy centers. And those energy centers are your sending and transmitting devices of the body. It's what the divine part of you actually feeds. It's your life force, basically. It's what keeps you alive. If you withdraw that from you, you're not going to be here. So if you have a lot of trauma or a lot of emotional things that are stored in your centers, whether it's this life, a past life, or even from your lineage, it can prevent that flow of energy coming into your system, and you won't live the life that you would be fulfilled or satisfied in. So in a lot of the work that I do, we really work on getting those energy centers open and cleared up so that you can get that full charge. And it's like an electrical charge that actually comes into your system. And once you get that up and working right, life just kind of unfolds. We always say it's like fish swimming upstream. They know when to do it. A bear knows when to go into its den. This is just an automatic, natural unfolding of life. And believe it or not, a human has that too. They don't always experience it that way because they're stuck a little bit in their human perception of their life, and they're not really connected to the flow of their life. But once you get those energy centers cleaned out and working, and it's one of the reasons people are really interested in raising their Kundalini, is because they are aware that it does hold a key to themselves as far as the amount of energy that they can actually receive. And this will actually reveal more of their life passion and alignment to the life that they want to have as a human, you see.
Prior to your interest in the New Age in your 20s, did you grow up with a religious background like Christianity?
Not at all. My parents were not religious. I think I remember going to a church a few times, even after I got married. I was just curious about it. I didn't have any urge to, really pursue any type of religion. So I kind of feel I was lucky in that sense that I could just on my own kind of feel my way through this and decide what really resonated with me. But no, I did not have any of that at all.
Was your Kundalini experience intentional or spontaneous?
Well, one of the things that I've always said is I used to wonder, is it chasing me or am I chasing it? And I think what I've come to realize is it was chasing me. But when the Kundalini is chasing you, it makes you pursue it. It's kind of this dance that goes on. So I did do some little breath work, not a lot. I would say it happened in about 2 months of focused concentration, where I would just do a little bit of breathing at night, kind of go through each one of my energy centers. And when it actually happened, and this is when I really became aware that this energy is electrical. It feels as though you get struck by lightning when it starts. And that's what actually kicks the system off or starts your chakras spinning. And so I very much felt that electricity hit me, the chakras spinning, and really had quite a profound experience when that energy took off. But, I would say I definitely knew about the Kundalini. It's a good idea to know about it if you are focused on it, because if it takes off and you have that kind of experience, you can actually inhibit its rise by your tensing up or worry about what this is or what's going to happen as it's occurring. So I had that intention. I think I always knew that there is a wealth of wisdom and knowledge that is within a human, and it's locked up inside those energy centers. And it's actually what Jesus did when he disappeared from the population for quite a length of time. He was doing this type of work, this focused study, opening up his energy centers. And he is an example of the level of attainment that someone could reach if they actually are able to embody the full magnitude of the power that's available to them by getting the system opened up in this way.
So you had this dark night of the soul. Do you think it's because you didn't get a complete Kundalini experience?
I thought that for a while, and it very much did get better after the energy came down through the top of my head. I felt like it hit the heart center and maybe veered off, and I never got the full rise to begin with. However, I've talked with many, many people who have had Kundalini risings that got the full experience, but still yet had the dark night of the soul. So I can only surmise, and what I get the feeling of my own knowing is that this is a dying off and then a rebuilding up, basically. It kind of makes you let go of everything that you thought you were, and then makes you think about who you might really be, who you really are. And so in order for that process to take place, you have to kind of go through this process where it's almost like if you've lost a loved one. I can remember when one of my parents died for the first time, all of the things that I love to do and collect and passions that I had kind of went flat for a while. It's like I got this recognition that, oh, people can die, and this isn't really what I thought it was. And I would say that experience kind of emulates that same type of feeling where something happens and life gets changed. It's like you get woken up and you feel differently about things than you did before having that happen.
So it's like a shift in your own energy.
Yes.
Was there one specific thing you did that kind of pulled you out of the dark night of the soul?
Well, I would say there were many times, and I've actually gotten a lot of correspondence from other people that are suffering a little bit with their Kundalini risings, and they've had some trouble with it, where they can get stuck in a place where they can't get out of that dark night of the soul, where they're very depressed. They want to send the energy back. They don't like what's happened to them. They liked their life when they were feeling the more materialism and the joys of being a human. And so they didn't like being woke up, is basically what it boiled down to. And so, I just think it's just hard to explain exactly what occurs when this happens, but it's like a shift in your consciousness. It's like overnight you are changed by this experience, and the change, it's like losing a loved one. That's the way I would explain it. There's this massive change that occurs, and to be able to try to go back is very difficult. I kind of lost track of the question that you asked me. Sometimes I veer off a little bit, and I apologize.
No, you're fine. What I find fascinating is that you were talking about our life force energy is basically in the root chakra. Would you say it just collects there, or that's where it attaches to our body? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, there's the energy that sits at the base of the spine is referred to as Shakti energy, which is the energy of creation. It's female divine energy, and it is called that because the female is the one that actually has children and goes through that process. And so that divine feminine energy, that energy of creation, and it's labeled as divine feminine because of the reason that women are the ones that have the babies. This is how creation is made. And so as this divine feminine energy becomes activated or stirred, it's the same energy that creates worlds. It's the energy that creates the universe. And so once this energy is released in your system, it will make its way up through all the nadis, all the different channels in the body, all of the energy centers. And its final destination is to meet its lover at the top, Shiva. And this is the male energy. And when the male and female energy actually unite or meet together at the crown, the top of the head, this now becomes what a human would refer to as unity. It's a male and female energy both combined. And so it has become one, basically. And so that's kind of what you're going through over this many-year process. Now, for me, it was over 25 years. I didn't really have anybody to help me with it. I didn't understand it. I read as much as I could. And I would say 25 years ago, there wasn't as much good material as there is now that's available. And probably because more people are experiencing it during this time that we have going on right now with consciousness rising. And it's rising basically because people want change. They want more unity. They want more people earning the same amount of money, enjoying the same things that other people enjoy. And so there's been a lot of call for that in humanity. And so that is also a stimulating thing for this energy to rise, because what comes with it is the knowing that you do create, that you can experience what it is you want to in the life that you have. And it kind of cleans up all of the things that you're holding inside of your human. A lot of us look at negative thoughts, for example, as something we want to get rid of, or that we're thinking bad, and we could bring something bad to ourselves by thinking these negative thoughts. But there's nothing bad going on here. There's the human and the divine part of you, and they're really working together. And when the human gives you negativity, it's simply giving you the truth within what you hold and believe about yourself, in comparison to what it is you are wanting to manifest in your life. So if I were to ask you if you think you could get $10 million by the end of the week, you obviously, as a human, would probably come up with all the right away. The human would start talking to you and telling you, you're not educated enough. We're not meaning that to you, but you're not educated enough. You don't have any way of doing that. That's ridiculous. So basically, this is your belief system that you're being shown in what you deem as negativity, and it really is trying to work with you to say, hey, you have all these desires out here that you want to have, these things that you want to bring to yourself, and when you start thinking about, oh, I would like to have this mate, I would like to have this job, I want these nice things to come to me, right away the human starts talking, and you think, what? Get that away. I don't want to hear that. But basically, it's the truth of what you really, and what is the truth? It's nothing more than how you've perceived your experiences, the way you've lived your life, the way you've lived your past lives, the way that your lineage has thought and felt. That's all part of your DNA. That's all in there in the way that you perceive your life. And so whatever you're perceiving and believing in starts to come in form. And then you really get it confirmed. And then you think, okay, this is definitely what I am. This is definitely what I believe, because it's coming now. So just to give you that understanding that in my channeling, or the group that I channel, they don't look at things as good, bad, or right and wrong. They don't look at negative thoughts as being something that should be shooed out, that we should just really accept those thoughts as life experiences have caused them, and soothe the human and be appreciative for those experiences, and know that a preference was born of that there's something that you really want because of that feeling that you had. And when you can really get that process going, this is how you can feel and release, and you can keep your energy centers open, and you can get the access to that divine part of you where the life just starts to unfold in ways that you are satisfied with, rather than judging the human, getting lodged in the negative emotion, and then recreating over and over from there something that perhaps you're not really liking in your life.
A lot of times on this show, we talk about consciousness, and it's from a non-local field that interfaces with our brain through the pineal gland. So it's fascinating for me to think about, okay, well, your consciousness is interfacing up at the top, and then your life force energy starts from the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And most likely when they meet the two, that's the full Kundalini experience. Would you say?
Yes, that is.
Do you think that this Kundalini experience was the catalyst that made you able to communicate with Athena?
We're going to come in now. How about that? Surprise.
Oh, okay.
Robin feels we are better equipped to handle the answer to that question than she would be, you see. What we want you to understand, and others that are watching this broadcast, is that she has two things going on here. She has attracted a group of beings that are channeling through her, yeah? And then she has this separate consciousness that everyone has, by the way, sitting at the base of her spine, that has made its way to the top and met that energy that she spoke about, the Shiva energy at the top, see? And so she has two things going on. She, through this Kundalini energy rising, and through it meeting the crown, what you get access to is the high part of yourself. This is the connection that is made through that experience. Now, what happens with a Kundalini rising is it creates a magnetism. It is something, and anyone can do it, whether you have pure intention or not. And let me explain that to you, because it's kind of interesting. You are a creator, believe it, one way or not. And it doesn't matter whether you think someone is worthy of something or not. They are still a creator. They can bring to themselves what it is they want. And that does not exclude the rising of their Kundalini energy. So, for example, if someone who had not really purified their system, and by purified their system, we would mean worked out the emotions that they have stored in all their energy centers, perhaps they want the Kundalini rising because they want to be revered, or in charge, or have people think that they have something that they don't. Let's use that term. Or they want the magnetism that comes with it, because a lot of people who haven't purified the system will be very flattered by the way that people like to be around them and come to them, because this is part of the energy. It is very attractive to people, you see. And so so we have someone like this, let's just say, that hasn't purified the center, that wants it for their own means, not to serve humanity. They just want it because they want it. They want the feeling of it. They can rise their Kundalini too. But what would happen is, if they have a lot of negativity or energy in their energy centers that has not been dealt with or lifted in vibrational tone, they could actually start recreating a lot of negative experiences for themselves that they wouldn't be happy with. Now, it doesn't mean that they wouldn't get the other attributes or powers that come with Kundalini. Many of your, we would say, gurus or people that have had cults, let's use that example, and have exploited people both sexually and for money. This was done in the name of spirituality. It was done probably in the name of Kundalini. They attracted this large amount of people to themselves through the releasing of their Kundalini, but they had not done it for the right means or for service of humanity. And so we have coupled with Robin for the purpose of, we know that she has done the work. Yeah, we know that it is her intention to serve humanity, that she has no intention to be flattered or to be worshipped or anything else, because what it is she does. And so this is an attractive thing to us. And this is actually the kind of people that are coming to us. We are calling or pulling in. We are not excluding. We are including people who are matched to the vibration of wanting to serve humanity, wanting to raise this energy so that they can be spreaders of it, activators of it. As people go out into the world, as they have incorporated this energy in their body, they will be able to transfer this energy just by walking around. And then also when they're doing things such as Robin is, if they do become channelers, or they decide to even even through the high part of them, do communications where they are in service, let's use that term, they will be able to transfer this energy. It will be a lifting experience. And this is actually what's lifting the plane or the earth from the dimension that it is in. Many humans will say, well, are we going to leave? What's going to happen when we go to the 5D dimension? And we would say, you're not going anywhere. But what's going to happen is your ability to perceive is going to be differently. As you expand in your consciousness, in your knowing, in your understanding, you begin to perceive yet higher and higher levels of communication and understanding. This is what occurs when you rise in your dimensions, you see.
How are you able to identify Robin from the other side that she would be a good conduit for channeling?
It is, we tell humans all the time that when one is asking, and think about it, anytime a human wants something, they're asking. The universe is an answering machine. It's a replicator. It wants to give an answer to everything it is asked in the reflection of what it will give back to you, you see. And Robin had a great amount of desire. And then with the Kundalini rising, a great enhancement of that desire by the energy level that she was transmitting in what it is she wanted to do in the life she was living. And we received that call.
Would you say that physically you are basically out of phase from us? Like you could literally be standing right next to Robin, but like a radio station, we're just out of tune from you. And if we could tune the radio station, then we would see you.
Yes, we would look at your makeup or the way that you look at your perception, let's use that term, as layers. Yes, layers upon layers of levels of consciousness. And so, yes, it is a matter of tuning. And we tell people all the time, some people will say, we were listening to you, by the way, too, before the recording started, about you're primarily interested in extraterrestrials. Was that what you said? Or something
That's
paranormal?
That's
yeah.
What you said. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, we're not far off from that, you know. All of it is coming from one thing, whether it's paranormal or metaphysical, whatever you would want to call it. So that being said, we are, yes, we would use the description of tuning into a radio dial or a station would be very applicable to what it is that we do. Even the guests or the people that Robin is meeting with, yeah, they are vibrationally toned or matched to us, you see.
Would you say that you were humanoid prior to being in this realm that you're in now, or are you from another planet?
Many of us have been both human and non-physical. If you didn't have the body that you were in, you you don't realize right now, but you are channeling. You are projecting the consciousness. This is what we are. We are consciousness. Robin has pulled hers aside so that we can occupy the vessel that is her and use it for the transmission that we are doing today. But you, as you sit there today, are transmitting too, but you don't realize it. You think that we are somehow different than you are, but we are not. We are doing the same thing that you are doing, but we know we're doing it and you don't, you see.
Are you physically taking control of Robin's body and speaking, or are you speaking to Robin's higher self and Robin's higher self is speaking?
There would never be anything that would occur in an exchange with a human without the permission or the alliance to or the agreement with the high part of them, you see. So you are absolutely correct in the answer that you are asking. We are absolutely in alignment with the high part of her as this transmission is taking place.
All right. I want to see if you can help my audience. How do people find out what they're passionate about?
The best way to find out what you're passionate about is to remove the things that are dulling you down or dimming the passion, you see. Where in your life are you struggling? Where are you having these emotions that you haven't got control over? Because every time you are emanating an emotion or a reaction, you are creating unconsciously most of the time. Humans are not aware that when they are looking at something in someone and they are deeming it as right or wrong, that they are just the emanator of that emotion. And they are now bringing to them the very thing that they deem as right and wrong, you see. So this is the best way. A human's passion gets covered up by the judgments, the condemnations, the negativity, the things that you have stored within you that you have decided to believe as the truth of who you are. It's not who you are. You are just believing. You are perceiving something as a human and deciding that this is what you are. This is what you are viewing in form. You are accepting this. but you don't have to. You can decide that you can hold a different set of perceptions and therefore believe differently, and your form will change. It will follow that perception and that belief, you see.
A lot of people believe that Earth is a school, and when coming here, they go through so much suffering. So why does spiritual growth seem to require so much pain?
Mm-hmm. One can decide really if they want to create in joy and happiness or in suffering. We, quite frankly, are here to try to eliminate the suffering and teach a human how they can create from happiness and joy. Both are being received. And let us tell you what we mean by being received. When you have an experience, you are emitting a charge of energy. That charge of energy in that emotion is being received by the high part of you, and the universe is all expanding because of that emotion that you have emitted in the feeling that you had, you see. Now, a human will become the human. They will stay in the negativity, and they will keep sending out that same letter over and over again. And the universe will keep revealing back to them the same negativity that they're sending because they're not giving it any other view, you see. It is up to you to decide. Do you want to create in that negative feeling? And then, no, I have a preference now. I'm lonely. I want to feel fulfilled. I want to feel as though I have company. I am sad. I want to be happy. Go to the preference because you have become it. The minute you have had a feeling that you have a preference about something, and it is based upon the feeling you have had, you automatically expand to that, just like that. This is an all-inclusive resort you're on here. You can't give anything back. Once you put your focus on something, it's in your universe. There's no point in worrying about positivity and negativity. As long as you keep yourself in a higher tone, as long as you keep yourself feeling happy, some of these other little things that you have inadvertently added that perhaps are not to your liking, you don't have to worry about those showing up in your experience as long as you go forward in a positive direction. If you have a lot of down days, if your tone really dips down, now you might pull some of those things out of your universe that perhaps are not going to be to your satisfaction. But it's not like it's out of your control. You're asking the question, why does a human suffer? We have session after session with a human, and we very quickly uncover the emotions that are kept trapped. You have these energy centers. They are made to send and receive. They are not made to hold. When a human decides to hold on to an experience, the center closes around that experience, and the energy that funds that actual center cannot be communicated with or delivered to. So say in the love life, you've been betrayed, you've been left, whatever it is. And instead of just experiencing that experience and thinking this is what I needed to go through for the growth and the expansion of my soul, you decide to hang on to it as a victim. I've been victimized. I've had this bad thing happen to me that I don't deserve. And your center closes around it. And now you can't receive love. You can't receive the new mate that you want. You can't get the stuff in that you want to get because you are the one that has closed the door. You see, you are the decider, the picker, the chooser, the one who gets to make up their mind. How open are you going to be? How are you going to feel and release? Are you just going to let the human do what it said it would do? It's an experiencer. It's not a thing that is perfect. It's not a thing that's going to do everything right. It's not a thing that's never going to feel something that it doesn't like the feel of. That's never going to stop. But you, as the picker, the chooser, the decider, the observer of the human, can decide what is born of that feeling. I want this. And why does that happen? When a charge of negativity or a release of energy is released, as it is received in all that is, it rises to the level of that. And it is the level of love. It is the highest tone of vibration of which we come from, of which your source is, you see. So the expansion is gotten by you and the universe, whether you suffer or not. But you don't have to do that. You can feel and release. You can decide, I'm going to the preference instead of staying in the negativity that you created it in and going in that wash machine over and over and over again and getting experiences that you're not liking.
Are you in a position of monitoring the majority of humanity? And if so, what is the message that humanity needs to hear right now?
The message is, as you emanate, you create. There's been a misconception in your world that opposition is the way to change. It is not. Not in your Black Lives Matter, not in any of your racial issues, not in your wars, not in your financial institutions. That which you oppose will only grow. It will only become more of what you are not wanting or liking. The only way that you can make a change in the world is to know that you are sovereign creator. Stop looking out at the masses. Stop looking out at everybody else and deciding we got a bad situation here and then diving into that stream of consciousness unconsciously. You can't do that. You are creating more of it. You have to decide to hold yourself in firmness on your sovereignty of what it is you want to see in the world and emanate that out so that the universe can send more of that type of energy rather than this judgment, this condemnation, this look at this one, look at that one, look what they're doing. All the while you feel terrible as you were doing it, but you keep doing it anyway, you see.
When reincarnating, do we only have to reincarnate in the future, or can we reincarnate to any timeline that we want to?
You can reincarnate to any timeline that you want to. All time is happening at one time, you see.
Many people who I've talked to that have had a near-death experience wound up in a place that is black. We call it the black void. What is that place?
That is the complete reabsorption into oneness or your source.
All right. Is it true that we are all surrounded by guardian angels all the time?
What do you believe? A human is a creator of their own experience. We get people all the time coming to us and say, oh, what do my guides say about this? And do I have guides? And are there guides? And we would say, everything exists that has ever been thought about because it's been thought about, you see. And if you wish to participate in something that's been thought about, you may participate and it would be part of your experience. Does that mean that it doesn't exist? No, it just means that this is something you want to experience. Therefore, you jump into that stream of consciousness and you are part of it, you see. It's the same thing when you watch your news or your mass conscious studies about health, wellness, all of the things that are newsworthy in humans' minds. And all the while, you're not feeling good as you do it, but yet you keep doing it. And then you follow it. You follow what it is that they tell you to do because you're afraid if you don't, you get into fear that something bad is going to happen to you. And our advice to you would be don't follow anything that you don't feel good about. Don't decide to follow the masses in their studies unless you would like to be part of their studies. This is what you are adding to your universe. You have a universe that's yours, personal, private. You're picking and choosing. I like this. I don't like that. I'm following this. I'm not following that. We would tell you that to give up that power, that sovereignty to create for oneself the perfect world that you would like to see, why would you give that up to your masses? Why would you decide to jump into a stream of consciousness where those that are fearful are? Makes no sense to us at all.
From what I've heard from near-death experiencers, there's basically only love on the other side.
Yes.
So in being here, do you think we get emotionally trapped here? For example, we may not like worry and fear, but it causes a chemical reaction in our body that kind of stimulates us in a way, and recreating those feelings just because we kind of, in a way, enjoy that physical reaction.
It is what a human would call separation. It is feeling that I'm out of control. Someone asked us one time what the opposite of, Robin wants to get it right. I think she said it wrong last time. But this fear thing that people have is so compelling that they give up their sovereignty and they jump into that stream. Think about this for a moment, about all of the people that are fearful, about the mothers that are fearful that something will happen to their children, people that are fearful that they might lose their money, people that are fearful about their work being taken away. If you went into the amount of the masses that have joined this emotion, you can well see why it is the massive size of the bandwidth or the size of that stream is, and how easily it is to fall into it. It's almost to the point where it's unavoidable. And this is what you were talking about to some degree. How does a human stay out of fear where everywhere that they go, it is, you see, it is being revealed to them or displayed to them? And our answer to that would be that, and we hope that we are a representation of this, that you never die, that you are a creator of your experience, and that the only thing that makes you feel fearful is when you feel you're out of control. You're not out of control. What is out of control is you not believing this or knowing who you are, what you are, and why you are here. This is what causes this separation. But if you could imagine that what we are telling you, if you just for a little while clean up your energy system, in the way that you think and feel, intentionally change your emanation and watch your life change, you will prove it to yourself very shortly, and you will get excited about life. It will become this magical game, this thing that you can't wait to get out of bed in the morning and do. What can I get next? What can I do next? What can I make happen next? And you will become this believer of the creator that you are. But you have to move away from this attachment that you have allowed yourself to fall into the stream of fear consciousness. This is what is inhibiting a human from their own growth and well-being.
Is practicing meditation the best way to enlightenment? And if not, what is?
Many people ask us about practices, and we would tell you that you are to follow the breadcrumbs of the trail that feels best to you. This is where the key that opens the door to the human that is you see. To force yourself to do anything that is not of your liking is counterproductive to getting what it is you want to get out of it. So if you love to meditate, if it makes you feel in solitude, if it makes you feel wonderful and connected when you do it, then we say, by all means, do it. But we would tell you that many humans are doing it because they heard so-and-so did it, and it was a good thing to do. And this is the response that they got from it. And this is not the reason to do it. You're to do things that you're called to. You're to do things that make your heart sing, that make you happy, that make you joyful. And we would tell you that, yes, Robin did some practices. Was it the key that opened her door, or was it just a stimulant of the desire that she already had to know more? That's all these practices are. It's all your books are. It's all your studies are. It's just a practice of going in a direction of wanting to build a belief in something, and therefore you do. When you believe it, it comes.
What is the best way to communicate with friends and family who have crossed over to the other side?
Talk to them like they're still alive. Talk to them the same old way.
Well, we were talking about the paranormal earlier. Are there extraterrestrials visiting Earth?
Yes, there are. Why is it so fascinating for a human to think that there could possibly be other races or visits by other races? A human, even you, anyone, could be focused in a multitude of realities at one time. Did you know that? Including an extraterrestrial while being a human.
Yes. Would you say that we are originally from other planets?
We would say that most of you have been from all planets.
Who were the gods in the Old Testament, and who was Yahweh?
We don't know of a specific way that we could give you what it is you are asking for, other than an analogy of what a god is. A god is one that has lived, and others aspire to live in alignment to what it is that they created or believed in humanity. So, for instance, for Robin, the Shiva is considered a god. It is an expression of a god. And wisdom and knowledge and knowing were all a part of this fierce god that was known as Shiva, you see. And so as a human has a desire in them, they become aligned to or a match to a god, a consciousness that has expressed in this way. This is about as clear as we can give you an answer to that question.
Is our realm some type of manufactured simulation?
If you think that looking at yourself as an avatar makes you a simulation, then to some degree, you're a flesh and bone simulation. See, you are, what is a simulation? You're projecting consciousness into a physical apparatus to experience this plane in. So in your mind, would that be what you have asked us it is?
How can empathetic people best endure the trials and tribulations happening in the world?
Empathy is a gift that is given to someone so that they are able to perceive at the same level of someone that is suffering or going through something, you see. But they must not move to pity. They must move to compassion in the understanding that every human is experiencing exactly what they need for the growth and expansion of the soul that is them, you see. So no longer will you push against experiences. No longer will you say, that child doesn't deserve that. That person doesn't deserve that. It's not about deserving, but make no mistake about it. That child is a vast being that has lived many lives and has thought and felt in ways that are presently expressed as it enters, you see. You're creating the lives that you will live in your future right now, based upon how you're thinking, how you're feeling, and how you're perceiving. It's not, as people have depicted it, a bunch of people sitting around a table that are now going to tell you how you're going to go in and live the next life that you're going to live. That's not what's going on. You're creating all of it. You're the one that decides by the way that you're pushing against, by the way that you're opposing, by the way that you're loving, by the way that you're agreeing or not agreeing. All of these things are calculating or compiling together and making the lives that you will live in your future.
I know you mentioned that there is no right or wrong, but does good and evil exist? And if so, are they at war with each other?
Does good and evil exist? In the minds of those that are good and evil, and those that think something is evil, then it is evil. Then it exists. It is all by perception. If you are good, as you put it, and you are not fearful, and you are aligned to your source, you will not encounter evil. Robin's not encountering evil. Does that mean evil doesn't exist? What is evil? Something of a lower tone or lower vibration, a lower level of consciousness is what we would depict, what you are deeming as evil. But as long as one is not very afraid or fearful, as long as one thinks they are the creator of their experience and they choose not to be afraid of fear and evil, they will not encounter it. There's simply nothing happening to anyone. We know this is hard for humans to accept, that they are not somehow tuned to or matched to. And that includes some evil acts that you think people don't deserve. It could be in their fear of it, their distaste of it, their love of it. There could be so many reasons that that could show up in their experience that you, as a human, are never going to be able to determine why it's there or why it happened. And as you try to deem it wrong and as you oppose it, all you're doing is attracting something into your own experience. It's not going to be to your liking. You're to live your life on your own sovereignty and let others create the lives that they are creating. If everyone were holding a focus of love, if everyone were holding a focus of that kind of intention, instead of looking around at the things that they do not like or that they think others are doing wrong, there'd be a whole lot less wrong going on, a whole lot less evil happening. As you attend to something, as you look at it, as you call your neighbor and tell them about it, you are enhancing the very thing that you do not want to see.
Is it just as easy to manifest negative things in your life as it is positive? How do we remain mindful so positive things manifest in our lives?
Yes. We always tell humans that have a life that they don't like to be happy that they know how to create, you see. And that if they turn that around to a different way of thinking, they'll have a different life. The reason that a human gets lodged in suffering is because of the senses. They're feeling, smelling, touching, tasting. It's hard to get away from that. You have to become what is referred to as a master. A master still feels. It still experiences, but it knows who it is. It knows that it is both a divine being and a human counterpart. And it watches and witnesses its own suffering. And it knows what is born of the suffering. It knows what its desire is. And then it chooses to move to that emanation and therefore bring into form what they have become by the experience that they have suffered through. And then the suffering ends. This is where we talk about feeling and releasing. They simply experience that feeling. They still feel it, but they have the ability. They don't. The divine does. The divine has the ability to release the human from the experience and therefore come into form what they have created by that experience.
I feel that a lot of our suffering is self-imposed because we're too hard on ourselves. We're too judgmental. How can we learn to realize that we don't need to be perfect?
A human is an experiential being. It's a tool that you are using. You're not going to do everything right. You didn't come here to do everything right. You came here to experience and have preferences and expand the whole as you did it. And everyone has done that. There is no, it is a false perception that there is any type of perfection that is to be attained by a human. And so if you loved your human, and this is what self-love is, I love you because you have experienced something that has let me know what I want because of that experience. And I'm grateful for you going through it. And if you soothed your human and loved your human in this fashion, it would be able to release the experience. And guess what happens when it releases that negativity that was creating? It will rise in its consciousness. It will rise in its vibration, and it will become a match or an alignment to the divine part of you. And now that flow can start. Now that stream of consciousness that you have become, that is elevated because of those experiences, can transfer into you. But you're never going to get those experiences transferred into human form as you sit in this judgment and condemnation of the human. So how do you do it? You just have to let go of the idea that you were expected to do it better than you expected. That's how you do it.
Are you the same Athena that is referred to in Greek mythology?
We are, yes, we are the same emanation of energy that represents the Greek god of Athena. Robin made a call, yeah? What does it feel like to be confident? I would like to feel really confident as a woman. And we could think of no better match than the energy of the life or the emanation of the god of Athena.
Do our pets live on after death? And if so, do we reunite with them on the other side?
Pets are an interesting topic. Humans will find this fun to listen to. It's oftentimes why a pet becomes very likened to their owner, because pets are traveling in the same stream of consciousness that you are. So they are a match to you when you get an animal. Oftentimes it will take on the same traits or behaviors or ways of thinking. It's why an animal can get sick or have different difficulties that humans can, because they become a little humanized as they enter the earth plane, you see. And so, yes, they are no different than a human consciousness that is reabsorbed back into the whole. They are same. They can cycle over and over again, re-experiencing themselves, same as humans can.
Do they ever evolve up or down in the animal kingdom? Like, would a dog eventually become a dolphin?
This would be you talking as a human again, that somehow everything is separate, that there's a line of dogs and a line of humans and a line of insects and a line of fish, you see. A human can project its consciousness anywhere it wants to, anytime.
So are you saying the consciousness residing in a dog is actually the same one that has been living in a human?
We would tell you that a human's consciousness can be projected in many different ways, in many different planes, in many different things at one time. So you're thinking, am I a dog sometimes when I'm not who I am? That's not what it is. It is a piece or an emanation that is a piece of consciousness that is projected into an animal for the experience, but it is not the same as the human experience. It's different.
The topic of surrender comes up many times with guests. Do you think that surrendering to life is one of the most important things humans need to do?
Absolutely. It is one of the biggest returners of getting what you want out of life. We would tell you that Robin went through a period of time, different things that she would try. She always worked alongside of her husband in his business, raised her kids, never really did her own thing. And then her grandchildren were born. She made the statement, if I never do another thing, this will have been enough. I have 2 wonderful sons. I have these grandchildren, good husband. I've had a good life. And in that surrender, we arrived. The match came. She would never have thought that her life could have gotten any better. She wasn't really looking for it to get better. She'd given up the idea that there needed to be anything other than what she had already experienced. She was happy with how things were. And in that way, what happens? Well, look at it this way. You as a human think that you could figure out what would make you the most satisfied in the life you're living. So the small part of you that's here thinks that it can come up with a plan, whether it be an occupation, a spouse, or something that's going to be really satisfying to it. But then we have the divine part of you in all that is. And it has access to the life you're living, to every life you've ever lived, and your lineage's life. So when you come into alignment, what kind of satisfaction might it deliver to you that you couldn't even imagine or think of? We can far tell you that this is not something that Robin could have ever imagined that she would be doing. She's pretty satisfied. It's actually very much in alignment with her. And so it's very apparent to her that it was something bigger or broader than what she could have imagined for herself in the life that she's in. And so we answered that question in the way that we just told you. The universe holds the whole package of you and all of you that you ever came from. And so when you come into alignment, not only are you going to get a wonderful life that you couldn't expect, but it's going to be something that you as a human could never dream up for yourself on your own.
During pre-birth, do we make our life choices solely with others, or do others make the choices for us?
You are forming the lives that you will live in the now moment. And in the past moments, what's unfolding right now is everything that you've thought and felt in your past. It's an ever expanding, never ending, never dying. It just goes on and on and on, you see. So as you are emoting, as you are thinking, as you are drawing conclusions, those that are in your soul group are all interacting, and what is needed, what is wanting to be lifted, what is wanting healing, all of those experiences that you are reacting to are what will culminate together and build the life that you will be coming into.
Well, Athena, I have run out of questions, but I appreciate you joining us today and answering them for us.
We've enjoyed this interaction more than words can say. We are grateful, for the experience to interact with you today. We'll let Robin pop back in for a brief hello, and we thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, I'm back.
You're back. So were you consciously there and listening to all this, or are you kind of more like a trance channel and you were pretty much absent?
What happens is, like, the first minute or two after the exchange, I kind of know some of it, and it's just quickly going. By the time I make my walk back to the house from my office, it'll be like it never happened.
So I guess it's very interesting for you to go back and watch videos like these to see what you said.
I have to say, it's gotten to the point where I just don't do it anymore. I used to go back and listen, and I think there is some advantage to the teachings that go on where some of it's just kind of gradually happening, like just by doing it. It's just odd to explain. I'm not like, I'm not different than anybody else. I'm not perfect. I'm not, you would never pick me to be a person that would be doing this. And I sometimes think that's why it happened, because people that know me would never dream that I would do this even in front of people. It's not really who I am. But yet, I think that's part of the reason that you get picked is it shows you something about yourself that maybe you covered up or you didn't even know about yourself. It's so easy as a human to just become the character that you've been born into. And what I'm discovering about all this is when it first started, and even now sometimes, I'll get that little pit in my stomach, like, oh, it's going too far. Like, maybe I have a spiritual experience, or maybe I see a recording of myself doing this and think, what are you doing? That's not who you are. I'll have a judgment about it. And I'll actually get like a little bit of like fear kind of. And I realize that this really is who you are. And it's hard to explain how I know that. I mean, I know now that the Kundalini has made the full ascent. When I go by myself and walk into a room to sit for a little bit, it's different than when the group comes in. I just feel this elevation and this a bliss kind of state that comes, and this is who you are. This is who you are when you're not in your human form. If you don't have any worries, you don't have anybody to impress, you don't have, and it's just this feeling that comes over you, and then you recognize that. You recognize, oh, that's who I am when I'm not playing this character that everybody thinks I am. So that's something I still struggle with from time to time, because you get pulled back into the character, and maybe somebody judges you by something they've seen on a recording and you feel kind of uncomfortable with it. And are they going to think I'm weird? Are they going to think I'm, you hold all the same things that a human does, but you get better at just kind of witnessing it. You're just kind of watching the movie rather than diving all the way back into it. So it's been a very gradual process. I still get sucked into the movie once in a while and try to pull myself back out of it. And you do want to enjoy your experience when you're here. You want to enjoy your family and the things that are offered here for you to have fun with. So and I think that's what the dark night of the soul is. I think you go through a period of time where you think maybe that isn't right. Maybe you're not supposed to be doing these things, that, buying something or going out to eat, you're not supposed to care about that or something. But, I've just kind of realized that you just come here to really experience things and decide and pick and choose, what it is you like. And then you get to see yourself kind of back by the other people that are in your interaction, mirroring back to you what you're kind of putting out there. That's kind of how I see it. But it's not easy all the time. It's pretty far from who I used to be.
Well, yes. I would guess that when you're feeling uncomfortable watching videos of yourself channeling, at least you could take the viewpoint that it's not me anyways, it's the channel.
Yeah. And it's more the human starts thinking, oh, I wonder how this is going to be received. Oh boy, I wonder what they're going to think of that. They're going to think I'm, you get these things, people, you just do as a human. And I think that's what I've been taught mostly, is that's not going away. No, everybody thinks that they're going to get spiritual and that somehow they're not going to feel, or they're not going to be humiliated or embarrassed or, feel angry. That's not happening. The only thing that's going to happen is you're just going to accept that. Surrender. There's your word. You're just going to surrender to that. It's just what it is. That's what it is to be a human. And so you recognize both sides of yourself. You allow the human side. You have to laugh at it once in a while. Sometimes it cries, whatever it does. And you just get into this acceptance mode of, there are two of you. There's two things going on here. And, I can tell you, I'm still having all of the same emotions and thoughts and issues that other people. So just because I'm doing this doesn't mean that doesn't happen. And then I wake up in the morning and I'll even say, they're still here. Can't believe they're still here, because I'm sure not doing everything right. And then I realize, okay, that you don't have to do everything right to be connected to the divine. You don't have to not feel in order to have that happen. It's okay.
I haven't mentioned your book yet, and I was thinking about saying you're the author, but actually you're not the author, right?
But I haven't.
And the channels are the author.
Yes. I didn't know I could do this. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because when I channel, I have my eyes closed. When I wrote the book, or they wrote the book, I had my eyes open and it just came right through my fingers. There was no thought involved. There was no knowing what was going to come on the page. It was just an automatic download. And now I do a Q&A subscription on my website where I do 2 hours of a month of answering questions that people want to know about. And those go out in recordings to members. But I also do automatic writing. So they'll get several articles that come out on various topics. And people really love it. They love the YouTube too. And it is a good way to, it's not that it's changing them, it's their desire that's changing them. So when they find something that they can follow, that keeps them uplifted, keeps them reminding them that they can create the life that they want to, that desire is what causes the universe to then send to them more that they want coming to them, So that's really why it's working. But I was very surprised that this could come like it came, and that it continues to be that way. I could literally sit down and do a book and not have to think about it at all. It just comes out. And I could never do that. So it's pretty amazing.
If people want to ask you questions, they do that from your website?
Yeah, like a lot of times on the YouTube, people ask questions, but it got to be such a heavy load. And oftentimes they're a lot deeper. The response takes a lot more time than maybe what they realize when they ask a question. So now we have developed a Q&A where they pay a monthly subscription. I think it's $9.99 a month. And they get all the questions that go in. We try to answer as many as possible in the 2 hours that we do it twice a week. And then, like I said, the automatic writings come out. They get those too from the membership. And, some of the questions get asked on the YouTube, and I'm trying to respond to as many as I can, but this makes it more available that if people have a more personal situation or struggle in their life, they can actually pose that on the Q&A and get that answered rather than having to book a session.
Well, your book is called Choose Your Universe.
Yes, it's on Amazon, Choose Your Universe, and we're doing a course actually in July, and we're running it off the book. I work with my sister Heidi Freilich, and she wrote the course off the book, and it basically just really helps a human get the life that they were meant to get, and that's kind of what we're going to cover, and we follow off the book for that course.
What is the name of your YouTube channel?
Everything is under Athena in Truth. I have Athena in Truth YouTube. We interview other channelers on there sometimes. My sister and I do different discussions on different topics. I have a podcast that I put out regularly that's just spontaneous. It can be anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes long, depending on what comes up. And generally, they're just thought-provoked. If there's an experience in the family or something maybe on the YouTube that I've been thinking about, then an answer to that question will come, and then I'll record that on the podcast. And people can have access to those things for free. They're all under Athena in Truth. The podcast would be under Anchor, Spotify, Apple podcast, and then also the YouTube channel is Athena in Truth also.
Before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
You're way more than you think you are. That's all I can say. And I would say for a good part of my life, I didn't believe that or know that. And it feels really good to know that really magical things can happen when you do surrender to this idea that there is something that wants to respond to you when you ask it to.
Robin, thank you for that message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.